Falls, Minnesota. Normally I would say it's sunny out, but actually it's raining. At least it's not snowing. We solely focus on professional service firms. So our clients are CPA firms, law firms, engineering firms, financial services, and banks. Anyone that's really selling their expertise. We do a wide variety of things, everything from PR to training and coaching to copywriting to websites and branding. So this is me. And funny enough, I'm actually wearing the same dress as this photo today. I actually came out of the CPA world, CPA firm marketing world, I should say. I was marketing director at 2 CPA firms. And in 2004, Wendy Nemitz and I joined forces. And now we have Ingenuity Marketing Group. All right. So think about this picture. Is this you? Or it might be a partner wondering how you can actually spend so much money on marketing-related items and still not be able to show any connection to new clients or prospects. So one of the things that I first want to do is rate yourself on having a plan. And there will be a poll that will come up as soon as Melissa gets it up here. And I actually believe there's 5, not 6. We minus out number 5. But please take a couple minutes and pull where you're at within your firm for a marketing plan. Right, we're almost there. Most of you have chosen your option. Yeah. Okay, we're going to close the poll. Melissa's going to publish the results. Okay, 18% is that there's no marketing plan that you know about. 24% say that you have to ask for anything you need on a case-by-case basis. 18% of you have a regular marketing plan that you have an approved business case that you track ROI and prove the effectiveness of your choices regularly. And 41% have some strategic objectives for the year, like a website or training, and that's actually pretty common to what we hear on a regular basis. It seems like we kind of choose, a few big projects here and there, and that's what we kind of focus on, and then throughout the rest of the year, whatever comes up, we just kind of deal with in a reactive mode. So we're going to try to change some of that today. All right, so creating a marketing plan, how do you actually start the process? Now, I actually came out of financial services and accounting marketing, and when I first started in accounting marketing, I worked at a small CPA firm here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. The name of it was Cummings, Keegan & Company, and they did a ton of planning and accountability. They had retreats, and they had mini retreats and regular meetings, and so they actually asked me to put together a plan and budget for the year, and I had no idea what to do. I think I was 25 or 26 at the time. Now, luckily, they belong to this great association, CPA America, and I was actually able to get some assistance from them and other member marketers. And I would say that planning is real natural for me, as the benefit for planning is control. I know that sounds scary, but you actually get to choose the project, not the partners, which is why I liked it so much and why I continue to like it. We have a marketing plan here at Ingenuity. We do tons of plans for our clients, whether it's a niche plan, whether it's a brand awareness plan, community awareness, or actually a firm marketing plan. And I would say your best friend is your marketing plan. For you marketing directors, it's you and your team's job description for the year. It helps you get things you know will help the firm by making a business case for it in advance instead of begging for it later. Plus, it brings the whole firm together around growth goals and helps you keep partners accountable to what they promise. Now, a couple things to consider before starting the process. What's your competition do? What's that saying? Keep your friends close, your enemies closer. Always be aware of what your competition is doing and where they're at. And one idea I have is maybe, once a year you do a competitive update and, share with them what your competitors are doing for marketing. The internet is an amazing thing. It used to be you have to, sort through magazines and you'd hear about a seminar that they are doing or something like that, or a client that you had would tell you that they just received something from a competitor. But now with the internet, you can look at their website, their SEO, any PR that they're getting, their social media. You can truly determine what their brand and taglines are just by, searching about them, which is an amazing thing. And it's something you should really share with your partners. You would think that they would go on a regular basis, and I would, and look at their competitors, and I would say a majority of them have never even looked at their main competitors' websites. The other thing that you should consider is actually how is your firm doing? And what I mean by this is financially. You don't want to make recommendations that don't really match up with what the firm goals are, as well as financially how they're doing. There's some marketing initiatives that are huge, huge expenses to undertake, and obviously that this might not be, or 2013 might not be the year that gets, done. You might have to wait. And I think it just shows that you're considerate of what is actually happening in the firm. Another thing that you should consider is what industries and practice groups you should focus on. There's certain ones that the firm wants to grow, or certain ones that are actually growing, and you're seeing trends around that these would be good areas that you should focus on. Make sure you take that in consideration. Also, what are the firm goals for the year? Does the partner group or the owners do any annual planning? And, you want to make sure that the marketing initiatives align with the firm goals. So maybe this year they have a huge recruiting initiative. They need more staff, they're understaffed, or they want to buy or acquire another practice. That might be some things to take into consideration when doing your marketing planning for the year. The final things are when you see things your firm should be doing, like training, consider the whys. I think that's something that we don't consider often enough, and that's the business case. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit more in depth here later on in the webinar. And then finally, starting the process, plan for the unexpected. Estimates are estimates, and things will come up. The firm gets busy, etc. And I always used to have a slush fund in there, whether it was $5,000 or $10,000, because you never know when an opportunity might come up or when something that absolutely needs to happen is in that budget. All right. Next, you want to determine the ambition level. If your firm has never had a marketing plan before, you might want to start simple or with a niche marketing plan or some sort of initiative like a brand awareness or community awareness plan. I would say the number one issue we see is not plan development, but in gaining buy-in throughout the year for implementation. And what I mean by this is, did they actually approve the initiative after the plan was done? Did you present it to them, and did they say yes, okay, or no, this isn't going to work? And was the budget plan or approved prior to the implementation of it? Some of the things that plans can include are your biggest clients. Who are they? Do you want more of this kind? Revenue disbursements, the percentage of services and industries. Competition, like we talked about earlier. A market analysis. What's actually going on in the area that you live in, as well as the industries that you're focusing on? Why focus on telecom if everyone is merging and the market is shrinking? It doesn't really make sense. So really look at those ideas that you have in the market that you're in. If you have several different offices, you're going to, and depending on where they're located, the market might be a little bit different for each one. So you have to take that into consideration as well. What might work in one city might not work in another. Vision. What a novel idea. Do they actually have one, or do you need to help them create it? Obviously, a marketing plan should also include the goals and tactics as well as the accountability and the calendar. I have seen so many plans that do not have who's responsible for actually accomplishing it and when throughout the year it needs to be done by. Now, if you don't want to go through all of these things that I just said, is maybe you can just include goals and tactics and who's responsible and when. I said, because doing a marketing plan can take a lot of hours and a lot of research, very time intensive. All right, so know your stuff. Things to look at before you start working on your marketing plan is, are there any past plans that were ever done? Have you ever seen anything like that? I always joke at one of the CPA firms that I worked at, I inherited a huge cabinet in my office, and there was drawers, like 4 huge drawers full of things that had been done in past years. That kind of thing can be very valuable. You never know what you'll find, hidden treasures. Previous budget, talk to the bookkeeper, the CEO or COO, the controller at the firm. Was there any past data that you've got that you can get on previous spending on marketing or related subjects? If they're coding various things, it should be fairly easy for you to get that information. The other thing is old bids or proposals, any information you can find, and make sure you really understand what's getting billed to marketing expenses and sales and promotions. There might be several different codes or categories that they're coding things to, and you want to make sure that you actually look at all of that. Another thing to look at is historic ROI. Were there any past ad campaigns done over the years, and what trends are you seeing? What grew and why? One of the things that I always like to look at and ask for is the last 3 years of billings in any way that can divide them up, whether it's services, practice areas, industries. Are you seeing any trends and what's happening and why? Because that would be very valuable information to have. Creating influence, a very valuable tool in creating a marketing plan. I would say if you're actually interested in doing a marketing plan, start selling the idea, especially if you don't have one, at least early, at least 6 months in advance. Depending on your partner group or the owner group, you may find there's some resistance if they've never had to be accountable before. With a marketing plan, you'll find that they actually have to commit, whether it's actually assisting you if they need to, but as well as committing to the funds that will take that you're making recommendations for the marketing initiatives for the following year. So also, creating influence, you also want to find the champion and get them on board. And then have powerful conversations of why you want various data on previous costs, and list the reasons you want to do this and how to say it to them or to the partner ahead of time. And then finally, if they totally resist you, I always say go to other influencer positions, whether it's IT, the firm administrator, the controller, the HR, COO, and see what works. You can get a lot of valuable information from them, as well as they can be your supporter in this endeavor. Also around creating influence, I would recommend that you speak the language of the firm. And for example, I'm just going to use a CPA firm. With CPA firms, keep the conversation focused on the ability to track ROI and do accurate budgets. CPAs speak the language of numbers. So what is it about your firm, that language, that would really benefit you when you're creating influence and trying to get buy-in for doing a marketing plan? Finally, around creating influence, I always say don't complain about the partners or owners not doing something. There's a likability factor, and if they like you, they want to help you. And influence can actually be had if people like you, which is a really important point. All right, so how do you develop your initial marketing plan? I would determine the tactics and an estimated cost for each item on your wish list. And then you want to create a business case for each item and attach budgets. And as I said before, this literally is your job description for the year. So how do you determine what you want to do or how to do it? And, there's lots of different resources around this. If you belong to any network, talk to them, talk to vendors, look at association websites, industry research, competitive research, and then what the firm goals are. All of that information will actually help you in the creation of the plan. All right, so here are a few of the marketing plan elements that we actually include in all of ours. Now, you can tell we're huge fans of market research, so I'd say the more research you can gather, the better. As I said shortly, start with your professional associations, whether it's LMA, SMPS, AIM, any of those. Look at the website toolbox, or if your firm is a member of an association. A lot of law firms and CPA firms have associations worldwide or nationally where it's non-competitive sharing, and you can get a lot of information from other member firms. Talk to those associations. I would say they often put together national and regional trends around what's happening, which can be very helpful. And then, research your favorite websites for any facts or stats that can help your firm make sense of what they're up against. And we always recommend that you either use the firm's strategic goals or get firm leadership to help you set the vision and goals. They need buy-in and you need information. Now, there have been times where the firm might not actually have a vision, so I would recommend then you need to invent one. And I know that sounds crazy, but even if it's simple as grow by X percentage or create a marketing plan or create a marketing culture. What's the vision? I would encourage you, if they cannot help you create that, or they don't have one already, then make one up. When it comes to strategies and tactics, you may know a specific item on your wish list. Let's say you want to do social media strategy or a new website. Talk to vendors before you write the plan so you can be educated and know what budget to ask for. It's part of your vendor's job to make a presentation to firm leadership and to carefully align with you when they do that. Unfortunately, we know that firms can ignore their inside experts and they need to hear from outside experts. So, either your vendors make your job easier, or I would suggest that you use someone else. If the leadership is not even on board with the item you want, make sure that your vendor can actually help you build that business case and not just the case to hire them. All right, so now we're back to research. Do the market analysis, as I said, what's going on in your area in any particular industries or niche. Compare yourself to the competition. As I said earlier, look at what service lines they offer. Are they offering anything different that's unique from you? SEO, how is their SEO on their website, and how are they coming up on Google compared to you, for various search terms? Look at their social media and compare them to you as well as their website. And then think about, what are they doing differently than you? Once again, look at your services. Why continue investing in estate planning when billings have gone down every year? Go talk to the partner in charge of this area and find out what they actually think is going on. Now, the next couple of slides are sample research stats. And I would say they can be extremely powerful in presenting your marketing initiatives and your business case for what you're trying to do. And at Ingenuity, we always said it was like we made fire, which really means we said something really smart and the client was like, wow. For example, I brought up doing something simple as doing a welcome letter to new clients at an engineering firm, and you would have thought I invented the wheel. So sometimes those most simple things or those statistics can really help you create the buy-in that you need. So, for example, I have a couple in here. Here's a marketing plan. This is actually a statistic that we recently used on a presentation around brand research. Say you want to determine your brand differentiators for next year. A stat like this could be really valuable. As it says, while brand leaders and not very well-known brands or firms that have not very well-known firms have similar standard book rates. The hourly rates of brand leaders actually were always higher than their counterparts. So you can see that branding actually makes a difference and realizable in fees. So this could actually help you support with the business case of why you should do branding. Here's another element around an industry, and this was actually a quote that we found for some industry analysis that we did for a client in New York, where one of their niches is school bus transportation. And you can see here, like outsourcing transportation can help districts focus their resources on the core function of education, which is necessary in these challenging economic times. Well, that might be something that, as a CPA firm, they want to recommend as, you know, and be up on what's going on so that they're able to help their clients with cash flow management as well as, you know, surviving, as, you know, budgetary constraints are a big concern right now. So anytime you can offer stats, industry analysis, it can be very powerful. Budgets. We all love budgets. These are several different budgets. They're pretty self-explanatory. There's lots of different methods that you can use. You know, the historical plus method is what was last year's budget, and then possibly add a little bit more. The percentage of sales method, this is based on a forecasted sales or current sales allocated on revenue. So when revenue goes up, your budget goes up, and vice versa. When revenue goes down, your budget goes down. Affordable method, spend what you can afford and don't spend what you can't afford. Now this competitive parity method, I've yet to figure out how you can actually do, but you try matching your budget to your competition by monitoring their activities and using trade secrets, as I would say. They're actually being a spy. And then the objective task method, and this is the one that most often I used when I was in-house, is your company sets its budget based on the objectives it sets. So I would go into, say, one of the partners' office every year and say, okay, what's my budget for the year? Well, I don't know. Let's just see what you want to do, and then we can determine if we want to go forward with them. And that's how my budget was set every year. Now, I would still make recommendations, and usually I would say somewhere between 1% and 3% of revenue, and that was 20 years ago. So yeah, so these are a lot of different budget methods. Now, oftentimes we get asked, how much should we spend? And I love this statistic, or this quote, and this is from Eric Mychek. He's not at Freed Maxick anymore, but he had wrote in the AIM discussion list in March is, I think in general anything less than 3% is considered maintenance mode, and anything more than 3% would be considered growth mode. This is for CPA firms. In the accounting or in the legal marketing industry, we find it's around 5% is maintenance mode, and usually anything more than that is considered growth mode. So there's a little bit different percentage there. The other thing that we always get asked is what should be included in budget. Should marketing staff salaries be included? Should printing and letterhead? I'm a firm believer that marketing staff salaries should not be in your budget, but things such as well as letterhead and business cards, but various printing for marketing initiatives like direct mail or brochures, that should all be in there. The other thing that we get asked is whether or not partners' personal budgets are sometimes in budgets. I've seen that's a firm decision. I personally think that they should be outside of the marketing budget. The other thing that we see in there is sponsorships, like sponsorships of your partner's son T-ball. Now, one of the things that we have found most helpful at Ingenuity is actually developing sponsorship guidelines so that it's way easier for the firm to actually say no. Because what happens is usually you have lots of different clients or your employees asking all the time for various things. If you have guidelines around what you're willing to sponsor, this makes it very easy. And then it's a lot easier to either have a separate item or include it in the marketing budget, depending on how it works. But I think that what's important here is when saying no, you really need to make sure the conversation is around aligning marketing with firm goals. All right, have your plan and budget done 2 to 3 months before your fiscal and calendar year end. So sit down with key influencers before presenting the plan to gain buy-in, and make sure those business cases are tight. It is the nature of partner groups to take some of your plan and kick out a few items, so make sure you know what you're willing to sacrifice. Periodically, I would put in, okay, this is kind of a wish list, but I'm not like, it would be great if I could do it, but it's not going to be the end of the world if it doesn't get approved. Those are the types of things that, put them in there. You never know what will happen, but, things will get kicked out. I would also recommend that in preparation for presentation of your marketing plan, be patient. Like I said, if it doesn't get in this year's budget, put it in next. I think there was one year when I was at a CPA firm, I put in media relations 3 years in a row, and finally it was approved. So next, you want to present the plan and the budget to the partner group. And I think it's important. You want to use your business case. You want to research your competitors, what they are doing, as well as others within your association if you belong to one. When I was in-house, it was all around the time of Enron, and we had a huge, huge advertising budget. And I just felt that advertising with everything going on wasn't really a good initiative or marketing thing to do at that time. So I was recommending media relations. And like I said, it literally took 3 years for them to approve it. And what happened was managing partner went to one of our association meetings, and another firm was having such success with media relations that he finally approved it. So sometimes it just, takes what are other firms doing, what are your competitors doing, and that will also help you get things that you're wanting to do approved. Now again, in presenting the plan, make sure that your proposed vendors that you want to work with are making those presentations or preparing you with the facts and statistics you need to make a better business case for whatever marketing initiative that you're trying to get past. Well, you keep hearing me talk about your business case. So I look at a business case as how is what you are recommending going to solve a challenge the firm or partner is having. So for example, you want a new website. The first question is why. I would also look at who is the main audience for the website. Prospects, possibly, how will they actually use the website? How does the website support the buying cycle? So you want to really look at your business case and answer every question under the sun and be prepared so that you sound intelligent and it makes sense for them to go forward with a new website. Also, when you're working in your business case, anytime that you can, I would include proposed ROI or ROO, which is return on objective. The other thing to consider when talking about your business cases is sometimes I would suggest that you shop them around. So go around and talk to other people in the firm. Ask them to listen to your case and why you think you should have that website or why you want to do branding this year or media relations. And get their feedback on what's missing and what they think about it. All right. So we talked briefly about ROI. I would say the single greatest way to gain control over your plan and budget is to carefully track ROI. And you can start by tracking views or activities. So for example, say a CPA firm or a law firm had 8 mixers with a bank this year. 45 CPAs or lawyers attended. They met with 89 bankers. 22 follow-up meetings were made. 6 follow-up meetings were made, and 1 referral was verified. all 89 received your firm mailing. Or we sent out our alert, our newsletter, and it had a 67% open rate, which means 659 people opened our information and 16 responded. Those numbers can be very valuable. And I would say tracking can sometimes be a super huge pain. As you know, sometimes you might have to make rounds every Friday and ask people what happened, as they will surely not remember to tell you. So it's something that you really have to dog them about and make sure that you're bugging them. You know, you might literally have to chase people down to get that information out of them. And I would say that it may take years to get new clients, but if you can track new clients back to something that you put in your marketing plan, you are actually winning. And without it, you are a line item expense. So with it, you're a firm builder with measurable results, and it may be the single most important part of our job, and I think that as marketers, we don't always do it enough. And then we have ROO, and this is return on objective, and we started really looking at this year because sometimes marketing just, you know, it's more subjective than, you know, than you would like it to be, and you can't always track every little thing. But if you have ROO around something, like, for example, this was around some key message training that we were doing, and we heard a client say, our staff now has the confidence to do business development in a way that's comfortable for them. Their goal was to get everyone on the same page. That is the type of ROO that could be very beneficial. You accomplish your objective by getting everyone on the same page. So make sure that you include various things as ROO as well if ROI is not available or an option when you're tracking your marketing. All right, finally, follow through. Once you've tracked your budget, your ROI, and your ROO, you want to make sure that you update leadership on both. This is extremely important. Let people know what you're accomplishing and what the results are. And try to present regularly and briefly, whether it's at an executive committee meeting or a partner meeting. And just to make a note, there's a few different articles on ROO that Ingenuity has written on the Ingenious blog that we have, ingeniusblog.com. You can just go to our website, ingenuitymarketing.com, and link to it, and you'll be able to search on our blog for those ROI articles. So make sure you have a group to report to on the plan and budget in case you get partner pressure to buy certain things. Things will come up. You know, I would also encourage you to do this on a regular basis. And I don't know how many accounting marketers I have here, but there is a gentleman who works at a large CPA firm in Michigan, and actually I think they're expanding now. They have several firms or offices all over in different states now. But Mitch Reno, when he first started out, he tracked everything and came up with all these great reports that he created. No one told him that he had to do it. And in fact, he had several partners say, Mitch, you don't have to do all this. And he's like, no, I do. But what it did was it really helped him build a case that marketing was working, and it enabled him to hire several people in the marketing department as well as salespeople and telemarketers. So tracking your marketing and the results that you're having, the successes that you're having, can be very valuable. I also think it addresses the question of what you're working on. You know, sometimes those partners, they're very busy doing their own thing, and they don't always know what we're doing. You want to make sure that you're always proving your value, and this is the perfect way to do that. So that is how you create the start of a marketing plan. Are there any questions, Melissa? No questions. There are no questions, so I'm happy to answer any questions at all regarding marketing planning. I have been doing it since 1996, which is sad to say. Melissa's laughing at me now. But if anyone has any questions or need any assistance, I'd be happy to help you in this endeavor. It can take a lot of time. At Ingenuity, I would say it takes around 80 hours to create a full-blown firm marketing plan. So it's definitely something that is scary, but also can be invaluable. And I would say once you do it once, a cakewalk after that, and you'll be fine. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.